I had some people say like, he's going to be a mess. Like, it's not going to be a good podcast. But you came in positive. You seem like you have a good head on your shoulder.
I wore my favorite Hawaiian shirt.
You look like a lost tourist.
Oh, but you look like you suck at your biker gang. Like, what are you going for?
I said I look like a middle-aged dad who's going through a life crisis, but then like make it sexy.
You look like you're trying to remember your ex-boyfriend who didn't do well financially.
This is great for a podcast when no one can see what we're wearing.
I know, right?
Welcome to Berning In Hell.
Okay, so I just want to preface this podcast.
Have we started? Has this begun?
I didn't want to warn you because we're in hell and the devil doesn't have time to warn you about things.
Heavens to Betsy.
My name is Hannah Berner and welcome to another controversial episode of Berning in Hell. I'm an innocent bystander. I got fired from Betches back in the day for something pretty stupid. It involved a ring light.
I don't know what that is.
It's a millennial thing. It's like a round light that girls use to have good lighting.
Oh, that doesn't sound particularly evil. What do you? Can I hear that story? Perhaps you've told it on.
I feel like you're turning this onto me immediately.
I mean, this is your podcast.
He's smart. He went to Harvard. Okay, so I have Francis Ellis on the podcast today.
Thank you.
I just want to say, when I say I'm innocent, I mean I'm not a follower of Barstool. But then I've met Ellie Schnitt. I've met Kate Mannion. They both were amazing on this podcast. Mm-hmm. And I reached out to one of my home dogs. And I was like, I want to have one of the guys from Barstool on. What guy do you think would best be for my podcast? And he immediately goes, this guy Francis. He played sports. He went to Harvard, so he's not that dumb. And he is a stand-up in his own right. And I think you guys would hit it off. And I was like, done. So I DM Francis. And he immediately responds so kindly, says, I know who you are. I'm funny. It's funny that we haven't crossed paths before. And I was like, let's do this. We book it for Monday. Then I'm hungover as shit in the Hamptons, and I have Francis texting me. I'm like, what does this dude want? We set it up. We're all ready to go. What do you need from me?
I didn't need anything.
You didn't?
I needed to let you know I don't work for Barstool anymore.
Did you first say that you're off on Monday?
I don't know that. No, I think I told you immediately that I had said that before. I was like, scheduling wise, we can do this anytime on Monday now because we don't have work on Monday. And it turns out I don't have work ever again. I mean, we could do this anytime, any day.
So why don't you kind of explain
on
your end what happened?
So I worked for Barstool for 2.5 years. And on Friday, I was fired because I wrote a blog about a young woman who had gone missing for a week in Utah, and her name was Mackenzie Lewick. And it was a pretty big story that had a lot of developments. And I wrote this blog because as I read, Friday was the first time that I'd actually read about her. And I saw that the big news, breaking news that day was that her sorority sisters had seen that her Instagram account was active, that she had liked a post, and that this was cause for hope.
Do you know what post it was?
It was for an account called @Fatherless. And I went and looked at that, and it's an account, I think it's a tongue-in-cheek account that says like girls with daddy issues.
Okay.
And
which is all of us.
Sure. This was good news. And I had this idea of like, okay, wow, in the age of social media that we live in, that sorority sisters are finding clues that the FBI is missing.
Yeah.
The sorority sisters had turned this news over to the FBI. So it was like, that was the good news. That was in a New York Post article. Mm-hmm. And then I looked and I was like, all right, what's the story? What's the latest update? And I started digging a little bit, but I was very like lazy and careless in my digging. And I saw a headline from an article on ABC News that said, Mackenzie Lewick missing, no foul play suspected, per the authorities. Mm-hmm. And that to me is police speech for like, we think she's gone off of her own accord.
Okay.
And then every article I read was always mentioning that she was on these sugar daddy dating websites.
Yeah.
Seeking arrangements.
Yeah.
And it may have been, and I don't actually know this, that they thought she was with somebody from that website.
Yeah, because when I first heard it, I'm like, really? Are you trying to pick like all these articles that were written about it? Are you trying to find these like embarrassing side facts? But I guess maybe they were using it to try to discover what dude might have kidnapped her. Or...
Exactly. That I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
And then I finally went and looked at her Instagram, and it was closed, but in her profile, it said that she was a huge fan of one of the Barstool podcasts, Call Her Daddy, which is like a big podcast. And so I thought, okay, given these 3 pieces of information, I'm going to present this blog. And I started the blog by saying like, look, first and foremost, we hope she's okay. If anyone has any news about her, please contact your local authorities, etc. And then I was like, her sorority sisters found the Instagram activity, and hopefully that's a good sign. And what was the activity? Well, let's see the account she liked. And I posted a couple of the posts from that account. And I was like, it's a hodgepodge of like pro-feminist stuff, messages, but also some like thirst trappy photos. And I included a couple of those with some like offhand remarks about like, look, here's a girl filling up her automobile with fuel in a scandalous way and whatever. None of that had any bearing on Mackenzie Lewick.
Yeah.
And then I wrote in the end some offhand remark. I was like, and finally, she's a fan of Call Her Daddy. Let's hope that the girls can send her some merch when all of this turns out okay. Thoughts and prayers, period. And I blogged it and I posted it. And, I write like, I don't know, 4 blogs a day.
I was about to say, what's your blogging process?
Yeah.
Are you contractually obligated to write 4 or 5 a day?
Not really. There's no quota necessarily, but I am a writer and I've been writing for a while, and or I was at Barstool, and I don't submit to an editor in chief or an editor because I was a senior blogger, and
How do you become a senior blogger at Barstool?
I think it's just like, have you demonstrated that you're a good enough writer
and you have high engagement on it?
Yeah, but also like, are you at a risk of posting like stuff that needs to be sanctioned or overseen? So
you, for 2 years, have you ever gotten in trouble with your editor before?
In the first year that I was working there, I had to submit all my blogs to an editor. And some of those he'd be like, nope, you can't, that's not going to go.
Why?
Just subject matter, or like, it was too dark, or maybe
off brand.
I don't know if I would say off brand, just like, he had a very good sense of like what would be...
What will do well?
What would like get us in trouble.
Oh, okay. So he was like the censor guy. But it's a thin line because to get good reactions, you guys want to have strong opinions.
Right. Yeah. And I was always a comedian there who wanted to push the envelope.
Yeah.
I found humor on the edge.
Yes.
And that's how I am as a stand-up.
And people aren't going to Barstool for their news. They're going for like the funny opinions on the news.
Yeah, fair. But I mean, look, I'll just say this. Like, Barstool is always trying to be funny and humorous. And what I had chosen as subject matter simply was not funny at all. And in that sense, it was off-brand. And what I had written as a topic choice was something that I don't think anyone else at the company would have chosen.
So do you think that if the girl wasn't found, passed away, it would have been cool?
I don't think I would have gotten in as much trouble necessarily, but I still think that they would have been like, dude, what are you doing here? So it's hard to know.
Do you think it's kind of a culture? There is a little bit of a culture of online bullying that's easy when you're like have a little bit of power to make a joke at someone and people laugh. I mean, bullying and joking is like very close.
Sure.
And I feel like you were kind of just making fun of the girl. But then the girl died and then it wasn't that funny.
I have to say, I was not trying to make fun of her. That wasn't my goal. And I think my idea, I don't think I was really trying to make fun of anyone. I think my thought was it was relevant to our audience based on the Call Her Daddy connection. I think I thought that people would, I don't know. I really don't know what I was thinking. Honestly, like I don't have a great answer for why I would ever have chosen this piece to talk about. It was like 11 a.m. on a Friday right before the 4th of July.
Yeah.
And I was struggling to find any stories to write about. And I always get anxious. I did get anxious at Barstool when I hadn't written anything before noon, because I knew it was my job to write, and I wanted to make sure I had shown that I came to work that day.
So even though you were one of the top personalities at Barstool, you still put a lot of pressure on yourself. Like you feel like it's a competitive environment to constantly be writing the funniest shit and performing the funniest stuff.
Sure. And, I don't know if I would say I was one of the top personalities, but I would say I felt always a professional, requirement to put out content every day, right? So I had my radio show on Sirius, Barstool Breakfast, and we did that on Friday morning. And then I came out of the studio and I was looking for stories, and we have so many writers that a lot of the stories I would have wanted to write about had been taken already. And so I saw this one and I thought, okay, that's fair. I wrote my blog, I hit publish, and it's very important to note that when I wrote the blog, she was a missing person for whom there were hopeful signs. That was my impression.
Yep.
That she was a missing person, that a lot of news outlets were kind of hinting that she was not missing for bad reasons. Within an hour of me posting the blog, they had named a suspect. And then they were digging in his backyard, and it started to look really, really bad.
Yeah.
And that was when I took the blog down.
Yep.
And after that, very quickly,
when you heard that she had passed away, did you immediately realize
that's when I
you
knew
could be in bad trouble?
I think it started to, I knew when they said they had named a suspect. I think I knew when that was the case.
Did you think you could lose your job?
To be honest with you, I thought that almost every day that I worked there, I thought I was going to lose my job. And that was just me. I'm an extremely anxious person.
Okay.
I always thought that I wasn't doing well enough, or that.
It's funny because I was I think you're one of the top personalities. I just talk with my friends and they're like, yeah, Francis is really well respected for his comedy.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
But it's interesting to see how sometimes anxiety makes you do things that aren't necessarily in character. I have a friend who gave $8,000 to a fake Bitcoin company.
I like this. This sounds a lot better than the mistake I made.
No, but she's college educated, very well respected in her career, and she got a call saying that her identity was stolen, and she just has to put her money in Bitcoin, and no one will be able to take her money from her bank account.
Right.
And she's freaking out. She's so anxious about money because she's actually very tight on it. And instead of logically being wait a second, she gave all her money away.
Wow.
And once she cooled down and her grandma gave her some money, I spoke to her and I was like, I think that this is your anxiety that took control. You weren't thinking logically. I'm not making any excuse for you, but I think for listeners, I'm just talking in general, this is Berning in Hell. This is people who are going through hard times. And, you even said to me, it was lazy. And the reason it's probably lazy was because you weren't really caring about the content. You just wanted something to come out that was funny, and you wanted the result. It wasn't you weren't enjoying the process of writing a well done comedy article.
Yeah, look, this is the important thing. I didn't think it was funny. I didn't think what I had written was funny. I don't even know if I would say I wrote jokes in the blog.
Okay.
I don't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
It was just an absolutely ridiculous lack of consideration, and a horrible oversight, and a very tone deaf moment in my career.
Yeah.
I've had them before.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I guess the other ones that I've had have always been like less incendiary.
Yeah.
But this one was so so bad in light of how everything turned out.
Do you think it's one of the worst things that anyone's ever done at Barstool?
I don't know. I don't know. I can't really say. I can't compare what I did to some of the other things that have happened there. I think it's very important
because I didn't read the article you wrote.
Yeah, and I'm not like buttering it up here. What I just described was exactly how it was. Yeah. And there's a Washington Post article that wrote about my firing.
Yeah.
The Deadspin wrote about it, and they were pretty fair. But basically they were like, who knows why he did this? Like it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, like it's not because you're sexist or racist or have something a vendetta against that girl in particular.
Right. I didn't see like, oh my God, missing girl. Here's a source for humor.
Yeah.
And
it was more the connection with Barstool and her.
No, I can't really blame it on Barstool because nobody there would have like encouraged me to write it.
Call her daddy.
That was my thought.
Yeah.
But like it was, yeah, exactly. I was like, hey, this people will connect with this story, want to read this story.
Okay, so sitting here right now, what have you learned?
Well,
it's fresh. This shit is fresh.
Yeah, I've learned a lot. I mean, I've learned that you must never, certain things are just too messed up to really ever try to present in a humorous way.
But it's hard with comedy. Like I was just on a podcast where I talked about how I had a date with a guy who gave me chlamydia, and then the next morning I didn't know he gave me chlamydia yet. But we're it's romantic.
It's curable.
And it's just a pill. It's really nothing. Mm-hmm. But I went to brunch with him, and the podcast guy was like, "Why did you go to brunch? Come up with an excuse. Say like your family died." And then we started going on this long joke about how like the excuse of your family dying. It's like, oh, they died again. They died last week, and they died. And
I lost a lot of grandparents in college for paper extensions.
So it's like, where is the fucking line?
Right.
Everything's going to affect someone in a wrong way. I do think what you did was tone deaf.
Totally fair. And I think the important thing to know is that everything that comes from Barstool, in my opinion, in my understanding that I gained while I was there, is that it's always meant to be entertaining and funny. It's not meant to like ruin lives or... I don't know. I mean, everything I did, I'm a comedian. Like that was always what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
Which is why this blog really, unfortunately, was a massive misstep for me. Because I don't think I was trying to be funny. I was just careless and lazy, and I was writing something to show that I came to work that day. And I chose the wrong topic. And when you step back and you look at it realistically, I was making light of a young lady whose family, was going through a horrific ordeal, and who, I guess if I had looked closer, signs were not good.
Yeah.
That this was going to be an okay situation.
Were you also writing about like her thirst trapping?
No.